have to change from doubter to believer.
Never will the runners-up have achieved so much, only to fall agonisingly short. The most heroic of failures.
City are leading Liverpool home. City champions, they got to the wire first, but only just.
Anfield's agonising wait for the title will go into a 30th year.
We will be there again and try again.
Welcome back. This is Anfield, the home of the greatest runners-up English football has ever known. Stand by then for the sequel to an epic. Liverpool are promptly launched.
Well, what a turn-up for the books that is. It could prove to be a telling weekend in the title race.
Oh, what a hit! In front of the Kop, he wins it for Liverpool. Red desire, they have to win.
Liverpool within touching distance.
Crowned champions in their absence. The gleaming trophy awaits them.
So, second against first then, Manchester City against Liverpool. Now, of course, the Premier League champions. That rounds off match week 32 on Thursday as the former winners of the Premier League come up against the new ones at the Etihad Stadium. Darren Bent and Miguel Delaney join me in the studio, and we'll be speaking about that game in a moment, but not before we hear from one of the key men in Liverpool's title-winning campaign, Virgil van Dijk.
It's a dream come true. It's a dream come true with these kind of group of players, for the club, of course, to be able to deliver the title for the fans that have been waiting so long. It's just incredible. It's just something that we all wanted to do, and we finally did it.
Your first training session, how far off was that backline from the one that now exists, and what's changed?
Well, I'm not going to take all the credit. First and foremost, we all been working so much together, defensively, offensively, and if you look at us as a team, defending is something that everyone is doing. Start from the front with the way the players are pressing up front, and the midfield, how much energy they put in the game is just incredible. And obviously, then worst case scenario, if they come to our last line, then we have to do it. And if they come past us, then we have an amazing goalie as well. I think the best goalie in world football as well. I try to stay calm, but obviously at moments you will see me going nuts. Like maybe Hendo, you see Hendo going nuts as well at times. Sometimes you have to, be calm because teammates look to you, and if you are the one who's stressing, then they're gonna stress as well. So I try to stay as calm as I can. I try to find solutions as good as they come, and obviously at times you have to switch up as well. I've naturally always been a bit laid back, the way I look and the way my presence is, and I think a good example is, for example, in tennis. If you watch Federer playing tennis, it looks like he's not even putting in any work, and it can frustrate the opponent as well, thinking, oh, you're trying as hard as you can, and he's just on his slippers, for example. So it's fun to see in certain things, and I've obviously been looking at that as well.
You've won the Champions League, you've just won the Premier League. What's the goal now? To
retain it, to try and defend it. That's just the difficult part, I think. Obviously we tried to defend our Champions League title this year, and we got knocked out by Atletico Madrid, and that was a big blow. And it's so difficult. Everyone wants to beat the defending title. So what we're trying to do is focus on how to be as consistent as we have been this year. Try and win every game in the following season, and we'll see what that brings us. But we all start from scratch. Everyone is at zero, and we all wanna go again and try to do it again, but it's going to be so tough.
If you could go back in time and speak to teenage Virgil van Dijk, what message would you have for him that you've learned along the way?
Never give up, and that's what I've obviously done. But just enjoy the ride. You know, in football, personally, I know as well that there are so many ways, so many routes towards the top. Basically, I'm a late comer. I made my, you know, proper breakthrough maybe when I was 26, and you know, it's still possible. You know, just go for it, never give up, and just enjoy the world.
Miguel, it's been talked about so much, but is it possible to put just how important Virgil van Dijk has been to this title win?
I would actually say he's been the most singularly transformative player on a team since Cantona.
Okay.
I go that far.
Not Bruno Fernandes like the stats shown before, yeah.
No, I mean, and it almost happened at the other end, because when Cantona came in 92, 93, United were, you know, waiting. It was going to be 26 years by that point. And he transformed their attack. You know, Fergie called him the can opener and all that. Where Liverpool didn't have that problem at this point, on their own 30-year wait, or at that point it would have been 28. They were brilliant attacking, but the issue was obviously at the other end. And it's in this exact same sort of way, Van Dijk was the final piece of the jigsaw. He just totally changed the team. And again, we were talking off air there, from what you hear within the Liverpool team is that once they got Van Dijk in, it basically just meant an entire half the pitch they didn't have to worry about anymore, because he just commanded so much of it. And he also added something to their attack because of the kind of platform he gave them, and because he himself is so comfortable on the ball. I mean, one of the things I most associate with him mentally, as much as kind of defensive composure, is the kind of arching balls over the top.
In terms of a player like Virgil van Dijk, Darren, when you've been in a team and you've had a commanding centre-half like that, you're a long way away from them as a centre-forward. But what effect does it have on you?
Yeah, it's massive. I mean, I go back to my time at Spurs with Ledley King. I mean, he was phenomenal, never trained, but was arguably the best player on a Saturday. But it's just handy, because when, you know, if you're trying to do your job at my end of the pitch, which is score goals, you haven't got to have a worry about back there that if I score, they might leak one in back there, because you'd have a kind of turn around, see Ledley was there. Or even on the Friday when you're doing your training, you know, Ledley's playing the next day, you'd be like, oh, we'll be all right today because Ledley's playing. And I'm sure these Liverpool guys would be the same, that knowing that big Virgil's back there and Alisson behind them, it just makes the job easier. All you can do is focus on going forward now and trying to win the game, rather than worrying about, well, if we score one, are we going to ship in two? Because with this guy, it doesn't happen.
What sums it up as well is when they went for Van Dijk, I remember there was all that controversy when they didn't get him in the summer of 2017, and it looked like it was over. I think Liverpool even publicly declared they had no interest. But Klopp, he was unwilling to accept any alternative. Van Dijk was his man. He was specifically the player he wanted. And he felt, I think all their kind of analytics, or even Klopp's opinion, suggested he was the defender above anyone else in the world. And they stuck with him and got him.
Yeah, and they've been proved right, haven't they? Absolutely. And he's a big reason why Pep Guardiola has confirmed in his press conference this afternoon that Manchester City will give Liverpool a guard of honour as they come out onto the pitch at the Etihad Stadium. How painful will that be for those City players, Darren?
Listen, it is painful, but it's the respectful thing to do, and it's the right thing to do.
Absolutely.
I mean, if they hadn't done it, man, there's some of the questions that have been asked to Manchester City. It's all right when they're winning titles, but now obviously it's happened to them. So it's perfect, and that's how it should be, and the sign of respect. But they've deserved it, Liverpool. They've been the best team. Manchester City last season pipped them by 1 point. Do you know what I mean? So this season, Liverpool have been the best team, so that's the right thing to do.
Miguel, does next season's title race begin later? On Thursday in this match?
Yeah, in a way, I think. And I think one of the things the Guard of Honour will do is there'll probably be that kind of professionals irritation from City that their title's been taken and this is what they have to go through. So from that perspective, I mean, you kind of think of what Ferguson again said to, you know, the United players in 2012 when City pipped them, remember how this feels. And you'd have to imagine Guardiola saying something similar today as they're kind of clapping out their kind of biggest rivals of the past few years onto the pitch. So yeah, I'd say, and it does also feel maybe that the way City are setting up, I mean, obviously they're preparing for the Champions League as well, but as if they're kind of getting things in place for next season as well.
Darren, do you sort of feel like it could be a marker, this game, for next season if Manchester City were to beat Liverpool and beat them well, or even vice versa?
Yeah, I mean, listen, you're always looking at the next game and you'd have to say that this game is probably the marquee game. So Manchester City will be hurting when Liverpool are walking through it. But again, next season, I don't think it's going to be such a straightforward two-horse race now. I think Chelsea are going to be in the mix because I think with the transfer ban and them already getting one superstar in Timo Werner, I fully expect them to come again. And Manchester United as well, we're only talking about a couple of players and they're going to be back in the mix. So I don't think it's going to be a foregone conclusion that it's just going to be these two again having a straight shootout like it has been for the last couple of seasons.
OK, let's see how the Manchester City fans are feeling then ahead of this game against Liverpool. We can speak to David Mooney from the Blue Moon podcast. David, hello. How are you going to feel as your team clap Liverpool onto the pitch in that guard of honour?
They deserve it. It's ultimately you can't say anything bad against it because they've absolutely battered the league this season. I've enjoyed watching City for 2 seasons absolutely dominate the league, and you look at like last season as well. The way that City performed to be able to overhaul such a good Liverpool side was phenomenal. So I don't think it's this massive embarrassment that a team of great players will have to clap on a Liverpool side that has done what they've done to this season. I think what it will do is it'll inspire them for next season to kind of kick on and make sure that they go and have a good shot at getting that title back.
How do you think Manchester City close the gap on Liverpool? Because obviously 23 points at the minute, it's massive. How do you think City can close the gap on Liverpool next season?
This is the $1 million question, because there is so much for City this summer. They've got, obviously David Silva's leaving, Leroy Sané is pretty much gone as it stands. They've got to replace those. They haven't really replaced Vincent Kompany either. On top of all of that, you've got the problems of what is as it stands a Champions League ban, which we're still waiting to hear the outcome from the Court of Arbitration for Sport. How is the pandemic going to affect the market? There's so much that City need to address for this summer. It's going to be a really difficult question. I think with Phil Foden, they've got a great player coming through who I think we'll see a lot more of next season. After that, I really don't know how they close the gap. I also think Liverpool, maybe this is the City fan kind of over positive side of things coming through, but I don't think Liverpool have necessarily been as much better as the table shows this season. City have kind of succumbed at times when the pressure's been on, and they've ended up in a situation where things have spiralled out of control at times, where actually I don't really think that's the true City this season.